Joining me to kick off this show is none other than a man that holds a 12-0 record with 7 KOs. He goes by the nickname El Revolucion, and that is Emiliano Moreno. Emiliano, I appreciate you taking time to come on today, man.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, man, I gotta thank you because first of all, happy birthday. Second of all, appreciate you taking time to come on today on your birthday.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the birthday wishes. And I can always make time for interviews and stuff.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate you, man. Well, first of all, we got to get into the upcoming fight. You have it just a couple weeks out now, June 7th. Erick Bone, 29-7 record for himself. You're going to be the co-main event for the ProBox TV fight. What's going through your mind now that you are just about a week and a half out from that fight now?
Man, what's going through my mind is that I'm feeling strong, feeling ready. We made a lot of changes this camp. We got a strength conditioning coach, a nutritionist. Um, the weight's good, everything. I'm like maybe like 10 pounds off,
Okay.
and I got a week in like 5 days or something
Right.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and so the weight's good. I'm feeling strong, feeling ready. Probably about to get my last sparring in tomorrow with Tiger Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah. So a couple rounds with him, and then we've been working on things in the ring, like cutting the ring. Just applying more pressure, working on the inside, and I'm ready to show what I've been working on for this camp.
I got to follow up on a couple of things you just mentioned. First of all, Tiger, obviously another great prospect, up and coming fighter there as well. Have you guys been sparring for a while this whole camp, or is this something that you guys are just going to throw in now, or talk about your relationship with him?
Yeah, we've been sparring for a while. I think we've did maybe 3 or 4 weeks of sparring.
Okay.
The last 2 weeks we've been doing 10 rounds with each other. I did 10 rounds with I did 5 rounds with Keon Davis, and then I did five
Okay.
rounds with another one of Omac's fighters. The 4 minute rounds. They do 4 minute rounds, so it's been good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've been sparring with Tiger for about three weeks now.
And how have the sparring sessions gone?
The sparring's been good. The
Good.
sparring. We learn a lot from each other. We push each other, and we're both getting each other ready because I believe he's fighting on the same day I am too. Yeah.
You also brought in the fact that you've added in a strength and conditioning coach as well. Walk us through that game plan. Why did you guys decide to incorporate that into your routine now?
Yeah, just because we felt like, I mean, my trainers, they excel at boxing. They know what they're talking about in boxing, and they know what they're doing. But with the strength conditioning, it's a whole different like ball game. It's you can either use weights, you can use resistant bands. We've been doing a lot of calisthenics,
Okay.
so a lot of body weight, and yeah, we just noticed an improvement in power and an improvement in like my ability to move and my mobility and
Right.
my uh just an improvement all around in the ring just with the strength conditioning coach.
All right, so you incorporate all the different components now, and you already are fighting 12-0, 7 KOs. People are already looking at you as one of the top up and coming rising prospects in America, especially. And now you're adding in these other components now into your game, into your arsenal. What kind of performance and what version of Emiliano Moreno can we expect now on June 7th?
Man, you can expect an elite version. I've been working hard. We've been fixing a couple things in the gym. Like I said, we added more people to our camp, nutritionist, strength conditioning coach, and uh, we're just ready to show a better version, a more elite version, a sharper version, a stronger version of Emiliano Moreno.
What's your prediction for how that fight goes down on June 7th against Erick Bone?
I don't think Eric Bonet makes it past the I don't think he makes it past the 6th round.
All right. And when that night comes to conclusion, people are all going to have their opinions, their thoughts on you and how you perform that night. If you could put those words into people's mouths of what you want people talking about you as the statement that you're going to make on June 7th, what would that statement be?
I want them to just talk about my I want them to really talk about my mobility, my ability to cut the ring, my speed, my power, my reaction time, all the things we've been working on, and they're just gonna see a different version in the ring. It's just been great, great sparring, great work. Uh it's just been all good all around.
Absolutely, man. Well, I want people to get to know you and your story a little bit better. And so, obviously, we know you're a really young fighter. Obviously, you haven't had a ton of years of this experience in boxing yet, but you still have had quite a bit of experience. But I have to go all the way back and ask you this question: has boxing always been your passion? Has this always been the sport you wanted, or when did boxing come into fruition for yourself?
Well, I've always been someone who always like looked up to my older brother. So
Mm,
uh, at first, my brother was in soccer, so I joined soccer when I was about maybe five.
okay.
From 5 to 10, I was a soccer player, and then my brother moved to boxing. So like I didn't even know like boxing was a sport. So when I saw him, it just kind of like it was like I was like, yo, I kind of want to try it out because to be honest, like with soccer and everything, like it's a cool sport and everything, but it's more like team based and you
Yeah.
kind of rely on people. And with boxing, it's just like you rely on yourself and that's it. Like it's only you in the ring. So that's the main reason I like boxing so much is because you determine the outcome of the fight. You determine how hard you work. You determine if you want to pick it up, slow it down.
Hmm.
Determine whatever you want to do in that ring, and whoever works harder, it's going to show in the ring. And you don't have to rely on people. It's all you. So that's the main reason why I got into boxing at around 10 years old, 10 to 11. And then from there we my dad became real close with Jose Benavidez Sr. And
Okay.
we were training with David for a little bit, and we were really adapting to the pro style instead of the amateur style. So I only did about like 6 amateur fights,
Hmm.
and my record was like 5-1.
Hmm.
And yeah, so we were really focused on the pro style, and we decided that we were ready, and we were sparring with a lot of pros. We were sparring with Ryo, um,
Okay.
people from RGBA, people from Wildcard, just a bunch of pros we were getting work in at 14, 15. And I turned professional at 15, and I started fighting in Mexico, and it's just been up from there. And then we went our separate ways with Benavides, but we thanked them for everything they taught us, and
Hmm.
and I just felt like we had to go separate ways because Jose had a lot of fighters, and there was not really much time being put into me, so my
Okay.
dad focused more to me, and yeah.
Well, a few things I want to touch up that you just talked about there. First and foremost was when you got into boxing, would you say it was love at first sight? When you were 10 years old and you started just getting that ring for the first time, training a little bit, did you just all of a sudden know at that moment this is what you want to do going forward? Or when did you know what, this is my calling, I'm going to go all in on boxing?
I liked it when I first started, but I felt like I noticed I really wanted to do boxing when I was maybe 13, 14, 14
Mhm.
when I was sparring with the professionals. I was doing really good, and I noticed like I could this is something I could do. And
Okay.
I never really liked school, so I never really focused on school. And I just said, we could either like do school or like we could focus on boxing 100%. So then,
Hmm.
my parents, they I sat down, we talked, me and my parents talked, and I told them, I really don't want to focus on school. I'd rather just focus on boxing. And we did homeschool for a little bit, but that wasn't working out for me either. So I ended up like dropping out in ninth grade,
Okay.
and then that's when I went full in on boxing, and then we turned professional like a year later after that.
That had to be a wild transition for yourself because you're a young guy, and obviously some guys want to go down the amateur ranks and have the goals of playing or fighting in the Olympics or something along those lines. You chose to go pro route at 15 years old. Why was that a decision you wanted? Did you feel like pro game just suited you better, or was it just something amateur you didn't want to pursue, or why'd you make that transition at such a young age?
I just really didn't like the amateurs, and my main goal for boxing was to fight for money, because I wanted to get paid, and I didn't want to, I wasn't really worried about the amateurs or the Olympics or anything. I really
Okay.
just wanted to get paid and make that my career. So I just focused on being professional, and yeah, we felt like, well, I just felt like professional was the best for me because that's what I wanted to do with boxing. I wanted to be professional.
You also talked about the aspect that, and it is a blessing and a curse that when you're in boxing, it's not a team sport. So when you succeed, all the glory is going to go to yourself. But when you lost, which you haven't experienced that yet, but still the flaws, obviously it's all going to come back on you as well. That takes a lot of personal self accountability. Obviously, all the pressure is now placed on your shoulders, on your back. Has that been something you just embrace and you enjoy that aspect, or talk about that component of boxing?
Man, like something about me, man. I just always liked pressure. You know, I always liked having
Hmm.
pressure on me, and I've always just liked the feeling of like is this gonna break me or make me? You know, like I always it's just like a I don't know. I personally like the feeling of all the pressure on me,
Okay.
and you know I understand like you know if we do lose, you know, I mean that's gonna be a lot of pressure. You know, a lot of uh I told you so, or you know what I mean, like
Hmm.
a lot of stuff that's gonna attack me. But I'm willing to take that risk for the glory as well.
Absolutely, man. Well, you take that transition, you become a pro, 15 years old, and you have to start fighting in Mexico. That's obviously a little bit different transition. You're fighting another country, and that's the way you fight until you turn obviously 18. You can start working your way in America then. What were those fights like when you're going out to a different country, fighting out there? What's that experience like?
Man, it's terrible, man. It's something I never want to forget it. You know, uh, the locker rooms were bathrooms. You know, I remember this one time we were in a locker room and it was like a sewer right under us, so it would just smell so bad in there, and it was so hot in there, and you know, the locker rooms were terrible. But you know, I actually remember this one time I was in Mexico and I was fighting and I needed to use the restroom, and I went to the restroom, and they were charging for toilet paper, and I was like, oh man, like
And you're fighting in that fight?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh, I went to get some money from my dad, and then I bought the toilet paper, but yeah, and then you know the arena, you know they're very authentic over there. You know they start screaming, yelling.
Right.
It gets real cool over there, you know, and yeah, I mean, even this one time, in another fight I had in Mexico, I was fighting and it started raining and like the rain was like going through the roof and and it was getting all over everywhere. But yeah, it's just something that you know you don't want to forget. You always want to remember that and be grateful for everything and always be hungry.
Now I have to imagine that if obviously there's better, obviously better promotions, better things you could possibly get a part of that could possibly be hosted into Mexico down the future. Would that be something that you want to do? Like if there was obviously ProBox TV or whatever it is, something in the future to go fight back in Mexico again, probably in a better promotional standpoint. Would that be something you'd want to do?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I want to fight all over the world. You know,
Okay.
Mexico. You know, I'm pretty sure back when I was sparring with Tim Zoo, we were in talks to fighting. We were in talks with Tim Zoo's team in for fighting in Australia. You know,
Okay.
but I don't know whatever happened to that. But yeah, you know, it's something I would want. I definitely want to go back to Mexico. You know, I want to travel the world when I fight.
Okay. You talk about Tim Zoo there. Were you guys sparring like consistently with each other, or what? Talk about that relationship.
Yeah, me and Tim Zoo, we go back. I think I spotted him first when I was 17,
Okay.
and you know, I think I forgot what fight he was getting ready for that one, but it was good work. And then I spotted him again recently, like maybe a couple months ago or a year ago for his for the fight with Fundora, but
Okay.
he wasn't fighting Fundora, he was fighting someone else, and then they changed it for Fundora, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, me and him we spar. We know each other well in the ring, and you know he's a good spar. He's good work, you know, and we taught each other a lot of things. You know, I was able to learn a lot from him, and he was teaching me tips and stuff. So yeah, he's cool.
And when you talked about, obviously today kind of fell apart, you don't know what happened to it, but you were talking about just being able to fight on one of his cars potentially in Australia, or were you actually talking about possibly fighting him?
No, no, no.
Okay,
Being on
that's
one
what
of his
I
cars.
felt. Gotcha. Now, another aspect I have to talk to you about is that something really unique about yourself that I love seeing that when you do your walkouts, or your ring walks, you have a very signature component. You like to incorporate your faith into your ring walks, and I love seeing that and how you do that. I think it was either your last fight or a couple fights ago. You had Jesus on your ring walk, and then obviously you had a couple different things that always incorporates your faith. So I
Mm.
wanted the backstory behind that. Why is that such an important component that you always want to do something along those lines for your ring walks?
Man, uh, you know, well, something had happened. I want to say maybe 2 years ago, where where I really started believing, you know, and
Hmm.
something happened, and you know, I just I felt like I couldn't do nothing, and I just gave it to Jesus, and he just took care of it, and then after that happened, I started realizing like all the things that I thought were coincidences or stuff that happened. I realized it wasn't no coincidence. It was
Right.
him,
Hmm.
and I've had my life in danger multiple times. I had I got into this really bad car accident where I flipped the car over. I think it
Mm.
rolled over like twice, but I wasn't injured at all. Like
Wow.
the only injury I had was like a little cut right here, but that's it. And the doctors were saying like it's a miracle, all everything, and you know and then it's a couple more places where I've been in danger, but uh just thinking back on that, just thinking like how he's always been there for me, even if I wasn't, listening to him or believing in him, and when I my eyes got opened up to him, and I realized he was there the whole time. It's just very
Hmm.
important to me. It was very important to me how he never gave up on me, and he was always there. So I always try to incorporate him, and I always try to give him glory.
You talk about an interesting component. I feel like it's going to be for every believer is that at some point in your life, you might, even if you grow up in a household that believes in those type of things, it's going to be that moment that you turn your life over to Jesus because it's going to become your personal relationship. And you kind of hinted at that a little bit about 2 years ago, is that when that occurred for you. What was it about that moment, and what changed your life? Why at that moment in time, at that point in time, did you all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm giving my life entirely to you. I believe I'm going to follow you, Jesus.
Well, at first, it was like a whole bunch. It was like kind of like a line of things, a string of things that happened. So at first, my friend had given me like a little mini Bible, and
Mm,
it was orange. So he given me that because he knew orange was my favorite color, and he was like, "Oh,
okay.
I wanted to give it to you," and I was like, "All right, thanks." So I never really paid attention to it, but when that event happened in my life where I just feel like I couldn't do nothing, I had to like trust in, like I had to like just like I just had to put my faith in something, like something would fix it. So
Mm,
I picked up the Bible. I went to the first page. It was like go here if you're sad, if you're mad, and
okay.
I went to one that says something like if you're in distress or something, and it was just like comforting, and it was like saying like it was basically just saying like everything's like it was just comforting. It was welcoming. It didn't feel like I was being judged, or it didn't feel like I was you know looked at differently, and it kind of spiked my interest, so I started reading it more, and I read the gospels and all of that, and uh I started thinking, and like that situation ended up getting fixed. So I was like, man, like this like it got to be something, so like that situation alone wasn't like enough for me to put my faith in. But once I started
Yeah.
thinking back in the past, and realizing like all the stuff that had happened, and everything, it started like everything in my whole life kind of like led up to that moment. It was like, all right, like I believe in you now, like I believe now.
Obviously, that's such a unique thing because I know so many people are going to go through trials and tribulations. It's part of life. It's what the word says is going to happen to everybody, regardless of where you are. They're going to be trials and tribulations. Now, the question is whether or not you're going to put your faith and trust in Jesus, or you're going to turn away from him. Obviously, we know what you've done. You've decided to follow him, even in those trials and tribulations. But for those that are going to be listening to this and they hear, you know what, I'm going through a tough time, or it's going to happen in the future for themselves, why should they go and put their faith and trust in Jesus as opposed to many other things of the enemy that could obviously lead them astray?
Man, I feel like you know well, for me personally, whenever I put my faith and trust, or whenever I put my attention towards other things like worldly things,
Hmm.
uh I was never really like blinded. Like I was never really like, oh, this is making me happy. I was always like self-conscious, like, yeah, this is making me happy, but for how long? Or like I knew it was gonna end eventually, like, so like the whole time it was like basically just doing it just to do it, or doing it just to feel happy, or feel fun, or feel something, but
Yeah.
I already knew like like this isn't gonna last forever. But with Jesus, it was like a different feeling. I felt like, yeah, I feel happy, and I was like, but but like this isn't gonna end. Like this is always gonna be here. He's always gonna be
Right.
here with me, and you know, so it's just different. When you put your faith and attention towards worldly things, it's always gonna leave you. Uh, it's gonna give you temporary satisfaction. It's not gonna be permanent. It's always gonna leave again. You're gonna have to chase it again. But
Exactly.
with Jesus, Jesus, he don't ever leave. He's always there with you, and it's just you don't have to chase him. He's already there with you.
Amen, man. So I got to ask you then. Obviously, the first question I got into this topic about was the ring walk outfits. Is that something we can see going forward, whether it be your next fight and going forward in the future? Are we always going to see kind of incorporate some form of that into your ring walk and your outfits?
Yeah, man. I'm always gonna have Jesus. Jesus. I'm always gonna represent Jesus through my ring walks and even outside in the street. I have
Right.
like some shirts that
Hmm.
say like stuff like Jesus. Like I have this one shirt that says "I love Jesus. Jesus loves you." So
Uh huh.
it's just stuff I always like putting on.
And that is the other aspect because I feel like so many people want to keep their faith closeted. I feel like maybe over the past couple of years, I feel like we've seen more people be more vocal about their faith. But still, it's kind of a tough thing for some people, especially newer believers. They want to keep it kind of closeted. They don't want to talk about it. That's not your case. You've decided to be vocal about it. You want people to know who you believe in, your trust in Jesus. What's inspired you, and why do you feel so confident and bold saying, you know what? I don't care what people are going to think about me. I just want to go and share the light and be the gospel.
Yeah, for me, it helped me so much. I just feel like it could help someone else,
Yeah.
maybe because for me, no one really sat me down or no one really explained to me about Jesus or anything. So I never really like looked
Hmm.
into it up until the moment where I was like, all right, I have to look for something, So I looked for
Hmm.
Jesus, but so I feel like I don't want anyone to kind of like be in my position where they don't know where to look, and so I just always like tell people like just Jesus, man, I don't want to like I feel like it helped me so much. I want to help another. I want to have it help someone else.
Hmm. All right, well, let's get back into your career because you eventually grow and you go to ProBox TV. It's kind of where you've settled in now. You fought your past couple of fights there. Obviously, upcoming one against Erick on ProBox TV as well. What led to this relationship with them? How did this come to fruition?
When I did my pro debut in the USA,
Hmm.
ProBox, or I believe my manager was reaching out to a bunch of promotions, and ProBox was interested. So we just were like, okay, give us 4 fights a year, and we could sign with you. And they're like, okay, we signed with them, and the relationship's been growing ever since. Uh, uh, they're a very good promotion. They make very good fights,
Hmm.
and they started to upgrade their promotion a little bit. They're putting it out a little more, and
Hmm.
this has been good. They've been putting me against good fighters, and just getting me out there and getting my name known.
All right, well, I have to ask you about your Cesar Francis fight because obviously it was an interesting fight. Top to bottom, I know you have started a little bit slow, then you started working your way back, and you seemed like you were almost in control up until the very questionable stoppage in that fight. Can you take us through just that experience? Because at first of all, did you expect it to be a stoppage? Like, did you think that should have been a stoppage, or what was going through your mind in that instance?
In my opinion, I feel like it was a early stoppage, but I feel like I was gonna stop him that round, or if not the next round.
Yeah.
But it definitely was an early stoppage. I feel because I hit him with one punch and he backed up to the corner, and I felt like I followed him straight to the corner. I was gonna hit him with more punches, but then the ref jumped in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that fight kind of like uh put a little chip in my shoulder because I know it wasn't my fault that the rest of the fight, but at the same time, I didn't have the best performance. I didn't perform how I usually fight, and uh, you know, uh, no excuses. Francis is a good opponent. He knows how to box very well, but also, the weight cut. It was a very terrible weight cut.
Mm.
And I feel like I just couldn't recover in that time because I felt like my brain wanted to do a lot of things, but my body wasn't reacting. But yeah, the fight was good, and I feel like I just felt like I knew I was going to get him eventually, and I got him in the sixth or seventh round. And, I felt like that was the round that I was going to take him out, after that punch, after I wobbled him back. I jumped right on him, but then the referee stepped in and stopped the fight. But the referee might have saw something that nobody else could see. He was up close. I mean, I didn't really see. I just punched him, and then I saw him go back, so I just like followed him. But
Mhm.
maybe the referee was looking at his eyes. Maybe something he saw something that no one was able to see. But um, yeah, man, it was a good fight, and we offered the rematch to him, but he didn't end up accepting it. So
Okay.
yeah,
That's an interesting thing. I don't know if too many people have talked about that or know about that information. So you guys were willing to do the rematch with him that obviously got turned down by his team then?
well, they just never responded.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
yeah,
And I know kind of going back to you talk about adding in the new people into your camp, into your team, was because of the things that you learned, the weight cut being an issue for yourself, and those different components. Is that part of the reason that it kind of influenced you to say, you know what, let's go change things a little bit now heading into this next camp?
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely the nutritionist was um an essential. We needed someone to monitor the weight and keep me in discipline, keep me in check, and like just basically like satisfy my hunger without giving me the things that are bad for me. So
hmm
yeah.
All right, well, let's get into your future because you're 20 years old today. You're such a young fighter, but you're already something that we talked about 12 and 0, 7 KOs. You're already got people, as people are kind of being placed on people's radar at this point in time. But how do you look to progress now? Because, like I said, plenty of time. You're 20 years old. Obviously, you could be fighting the sport for another 10, 15 years if you so want to be doing. When you talk about how you're building yourself up in terms of how many fights, is on your mind just getting more and more fights at the pro level underneath your belt and slowly working your way up? Do you have aspirations to become a contender in the near future, or where do you kind of look at in terms of your game plan going forward?
Yeah, I definitely want to fight for a youth title soon.
Mhm.
Um, But my plans is just basically just become world champion. Right now we're doing catchweight fights. We feel like it's no point of fighting at 47 if there's like no big fight or no like title on the line or something like that. So right now we're just doing catchweight fights. We're fighting good opponents as well.
Mhm.
We're fighting good names and we're trying to prove ourselves that we're worthy of a title fight or a youth title or anything.
So if I were to ask you, let's say 12, 18 months from now, year and a half, where do you see Emiliano Moreno being? Where do you see in terms of how many fights or accomplishments, where you're sitting at? Where do you see yourself in a year and a half?
A year, I see myself at least with another 6 wins, maybe another 6 wins, and getting more talked about. I want to
Sure.
perform. I want to perform well, and show people what I can do, so they can keep an eye out on me and give me the chance I deserve. Because I feel like in a year from now I'll be ready for. In a year or two, maybe I'll be ready for a title fight. I feel like with the way I'm progressing and the new people we've added, I feel like we'll be ready for that. And I just want to win in spectacular fashions, and I just want to let the boxing do the talking for me and get people to pay attention.
For those that don't know you yet, those of you that probably just maybe will be watching for the first time on June 7th, for those of you that just look at you as a top ranked prospect, why should people look at you and say, you know what, this is a guy that going forward, he's a special player, he's a special fighter. Why should people be excited for Emiliano Moreno?
They should be excited because I I uh I switch things around. I put pressure. I like to make fights exciting. And the better the fighter, I feel like the better I can perform. I feel like uh man, I like to put pressure. I like to throw punches. I like to uh get rid of punches. I like to counter. I like to do a lot of things and that the fans like to see. They don't like to really see much boxing. Even though boxing is amazing. People don't really want to see that. They want to see punches and action and knockouts and I feel like going forward, I feel like I could provide that, and I could be an exciting fighter to watch.
In terms of your weight class, obviously, like I said, you're 20 years old. You don't know exactly where your body's going to go moving forward. But do you feel like when you start trying to compete for titles, when you start trying to become a world champion, is 147 the weight class that you have your eyes on that you're going to try working your way up? Do you see yourself at 154, 160 even? Like, where do you see yourself when you really start to settle down?
the first title I want to go for is definitely 147,
Okay.
but maybe after that 154. From there I'll probably remain at 154 after the 147 title, because uh 147 I could make it, but it's just like, is it worth it to make it?
Yeah.
Like if it's for a title, obviously that's worth it. So I'm gonna make that. But for after 147, or maybe we don't get the chance at 147, we'll just be at 154 from I think I'll be at 154 most of my career, maybe even 160.
Okay. Absolutely, man. Well, I got a couple of questions before I let you go. One of which is I got to ask you the backstory between your nickname, El Revolucion. Obviously, that's the revolution in English. Why is that the nickname you go by?
Well, my dad noticed that, like, these days the fighters, they just pick and choose who they want to fight. They fight
Mm,
who they're gonna win against. And back in the day it wasn't like that. It was the best versus the best.
mm-hmm.
So me and my dad came up with that name, to the revolution, to basically say, like, it's a revolution, like we're bringing it back, like we're fighting the best, and we're not scared of nobody, and we want to apply pressure, and we're not gonna uh you know uh we just want to bring back the old exciting fights, the fights that people want to see, not fights where you're gonna win. We want to bring back, we just want to bring back the old boxing, and that's what the revolution means.
I love it, man. Well, I got one final question for you, Emiliano, and that is talking about your legacy. It's the question like wrapping up every single interview with. And so when you're done with boxing, obviously a very long time down the road, but when that day does come, you put down the gloves. What is it that you want people to remember Emiliano Moreno for?
I want people to remember me for risking, taking that risk. 15 years old, dropped out of school. I turned professional. Letting people know that they can do it too. If they really put their mind to it. I want to show people anything is possible, and I want them to remember me as a warrior, a fighter who is not scared of nobody. Who will fight anybody, and just a fighter, but not only a warrior, a smart warrior.
Mm,
One that knows how to dismantle his opponents, and one that doesn't get hit too much, and you know uh, one that just brings excitement to shows, and I want people to talk about how exciting fighter I was, and that I was ready to fight against anybody, and that I worked hard, and that if kids want to continue to do that, they can continue their careers, whether it's boxing, anything else, any other sport. If you work hard enough, and you really really want to do it, and you believe in yourself, you could do it, and I want that to be my legacy, where people look up to me as like if you believe in yourself, you could do it.
I love that answer, man. Well, Emiliano, appreciate you taking time to come on today. Happy birthday once again, and best luck on your June 7th fight. Of
Thank you for having me.
course, you're always welcome on, man. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.